That timing. Oh yeah, I still have this on. Hello, 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 and welcome to another one line of code. I am one lion. Um, off. Okie dokie. I am one lion. This is a stream. Dicobot says hello to the new new first chatter. Niles? 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 Niles, I'm gonna stop there. Is that okay with you? Or is it Nilesh? Nilesh. Help me out here. Anyway, hi. Happy Monday to those of you. Actually, just hi and happy Monday. Period. To those of you who it is actually Monday, welcome to the stream. I'm all over the place because I'm still trying to get caught up, and I'm talking with Big Gamey at the same time. And yeah. Anyway, so yes. So long eye, short eye, medium length eye, Nilesh. Oh, I want to pronounce your name correctly and I don't want to disrespect you. But welcome in. We are now. Whoa. Okay, we're looking at a goat, I think. But we're gonna go to the desktop because that made me dizzy. We are at a point in our stream project, which the bot is not. Well, let's see if the bot is up. See if I have to restart it. It is connected. Stream, Big Gaming stream. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm back. I'm here. I'm awake. So, today we are finally at the point where we have finished the design for the redesign for the landing page of the stream application, which you can find at the link on GitHub. It's open source. Hi to Napalm. Hi to President Not Sure. Again, hi to Nilesh. Hope you're all doing well, and anyone else who happens to be lurking, just hope it's a great day for you. Great start of the week for those of you who today is the start of the week. Great middle of the week for those of you who this is the middle of the week. Great end of the week for those of you who this is the end. Cool. Right now. So this is the redesigned UI. We're going to take this and we're going to apply it to this. So let's open a new PowerShell so that it's in the app directory, cd into fineman. So right now you should notice that I'm going into the Wasm server folder. What that might tell you, what you might deduce from that is that this project is pre.NET 8. So another thing that we're going to do, as well as implementing the new UI, is upgrade the app to .NET 8. And it'll be... There's a clip out there floating around saying that it's a super easy conversion from .NET 7 to .NET 8 because of the way that we have everything set up. I'll probably end up eating my words, but who knows? We'll see. Okay, we are getting the current version of the app running so we can see what the UI currently looks like. and then we will come up with a plan for how to implement the new UI. Are we going to need to scrap the existing landing page? Can we just scrap the CSS? Can we keep a lot of the content as is? Or would it be better to just start over? So this is our landing page currently. We don't have a working login form or anything. We don't have identity set up. The only thing we do have is a backend SQL Server database that is storing all of this data that we're able to query and get information from. So let's compare oranges to pickles. Oh, come on. This one. Is there a way to... Yeah, I'll just do control backslash. That'll be easiest. Let's do this one since it's easier to see. Okay, so this top section is still going to be fine. We do have a top bar. We have a hero section with different information than what it says here. And an image that can go in place of this login form. Section 1, we can add another section. We have different information, so yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I think we can keep the structure-ish. Maybe we can keep the layout because the layout is top bar, page content. And then the page content is hero section, bunches of sections, footer. So let's see if we can get started with that. Let's make sure that the layout is good. Wrong one. Let me close everything so that we know where we are. And actually, I have changes, which is odd. But I definitely want to do this in a branch. These changes are probably all from samples that we did on stream, which is a really bad habit. I need to stop hijacking these projects just to show a sample of something. I'm guessing you got rebuilt is what happened, but there are no actual changes. So if we stage this, we'll see it goes away because there are no changes. Any CSS? Nope. Okay, so what we're going to do is go ahead and bring this into our new branch, which once again, you can see the project on GitHub. And I started adding some issues for the work that we're about to do. I didn't really do a very good job of creating the new ones because I just didn't. I'm good at this. So anyway, this is number 52. I don't exactly know what to label this as. You guys have been giving me a great naming convention for branches that I can't really remember what it is. This would be something like task number. You can't use backslash. Task number. And then what it is, which is revamp layout. Bring changes. I think my branch is dick. I used to walk around and find, yes, they were branches. But there was this really, really smooth, I'm pretty sure it was a tree that got hurt somehow. Anyway, It looked like someone had already been processing it or starting to process it to use it for something, but it was a really long branch, essentially. And all of the bark was already shaved off. It felt like it was sanded or something, and it was smooth, and it was pretty cool stick. So I kept it, and I used to collect them because I thought I would do stuff with it. I never did. They were just sticks in the end. Anyway, oh man, I'm feeling weird today. Are you feeling weird today? We're gonna go ahead and commit whatever these changes are one by one. So stage this for updates to trash can icon. We will find out what this is. We're just cleaning up carriage returns. Is that what's happening here too? No, no, it's not. Oh, this was getting prepared for, and I think we're still going to have to do this, but getting prepared for the .NET 8 update. Because if you remember, I said that in Entity Framework 8, they changed the way that your materialized list, let's say it's an array of something, dot contains in an Entity Framework link to query statement, will get translated to a JSON subquery. And the version of SQL Server that I have installed doesn't support JSON subqueries, so we'll need to add a configuration to this. But this was essentially getting started for that, putting this on the next line because there's going to be a comma B arrows supported version or something like that. We'll figure out what it is when we get there. But for now, we can just undo this. Excuse me. Thank you. TBD Gamer. Hello, TBD Gamer. I hope you have been having a fantastic morning so far. Great stream earlier. I love your community. You get such good engagement. Love to India from Denver, Colorado. But yeah, if you don't know TBD Gamer, check out his streams. He streams at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, which is UTC minus 4 currently, until we do the daylight savings thing, then it'll be UTC minus 5. But UTC minus 4, that would have been 3 hours ago, 3.5 hours ago. And he streams for about 2 hours. He's on a break this week and may stream longer, may not. Sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. Yeah, I agree, TBD. But on Mondays and Tuesdays, he streams game dev, learning Godot. But he also has an ongoing community project as well called Water Drink Water. And you can see it in this link. Yay, it worked. There is a GitHub link to it. You can contribute to that. There are probably open issues. Yep. There are open issues for it if you want to grab one of those and work on it, if you want to add something more to it, but it's just pretty much an app that will help you to track your water consumption. And so if you want to get better at drinking water and you need something to help you track your progress in doing so, then this is a good app for you. Cool. Oh, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he streams a more professional-oriented project, which is called Liquid Sky, and it is a project planning project that he is hoping could potentially have the potential to be potentially good for developers to use. But it's a developer-focused project management application. Thank you so much for the follow. It has potential. He's using a lot of really cool technologies with it. On occasion, he will have Q&A sessions where you can ask about the technologies he's using or just software in general related to that project. He can use that project to talk about a little bit more advanced topics, messaging, queuing, service bus. I don't know what all things he use. Kafka, confluent. Okay, moving on to things that I actually know. We're going to continue on with this redesign. We are working on this issue here, number 52. We're going to implement the layout for the new UI. Then, so just a quick question, TBD. And again, if your hands are busy or your brain is busy, don't answer unless you get the chance to. Would part of this be actually doing the CSS for the layout, or is it just setting up the HTML structure? What did I do? Yeah. Okay, so that means that you are no longer going to be a change. Wait, there was another change in here? Shouldn't be another change. I'm just going to undo this one. Response model? Oh yeah. Response model was just cleaning up a carriage return. We can go ahead and commit that. Does it really give you much value to do HTML without CSS? Actually, yes. Yes, it does. Structure is everything. So I would imagine this would be the get the layout with working styles, etc. And so you have foundation to build stuff off of. Okay, cool. Agreed. Okay, and what changes did I make to the solution? We added a workflow. Yeah, okay, so workflows for Azure pipeline. Cool. All right, so we are caught up. So let's get started on this. The place that I have the layout is in our Blazor component library that every single application type will use. So if we wanted to do, actually what we do have is a Maui project that uses a Blazor web view so that we can target mobile, desktop, and web at the same time. Actually, mobile and desktop at the same time. Sorry. You don't really do web with Maui, but you know what I mean. Mobile and desktop, both Windows and Mac, and both Android and iOS. We also have a web version using Blazor WebAssembly, using .NET 7, which we're going to update to .NET 8, as well as Blazor Server using .NET 7, as well as a WPF version that targets Windows desktop, just to show that we could make all of the application types with one UI. That's all. That was the whole point of that. Nilesh says, I am wondering why people don't support coding streamers. So much knowledge you guys provide to us. Appreciated your efforts. Well, I appreciate you being here and for saying such, but TBD was talking about it earlier, where he's like, you know, the whole point of him streaming, for example, is so that he gets that engagement, gets people excited about coding, hears back from people about different ways to do stuff because he wants to adapt and get better at what he does. That is not necessarily tied to the individual viewers, I guess. I don't know. It's not, I mean, I guess it kind of does ask for viewer engagement. But for me, for example, I stream because, like he mentioned on his stream, rubber ducking. When I talk things out, I learn more. I'm able to figure things out better. I could just sit here and talk as if I had viewers with 0 viewers and be happy as a clam. But it is nice to have viewer engagement and be able to talk technology and the topics that I absolutely love to talk about. The technologies I love to talk about, hearing about technologies you love, hearing other people excited about software development. I absolutely love that. So yeah, that's support enough for me. You don't need to do anything extra. You don't need to throw money anywhere. Just talk about what you love in technology. And that makes me very, very happy to hear. Okay, I'm done clicking around at random things. Let's get stuff done. TBD says, I would imagine this would be the, oh yeah, get the layout. I read that. Get started. People do. They come into the streams and partake in conversations and share their opinions, experience, and it just helps the community along. Opinions and experience. No docs. Yeah, so on Friday, I was so confident in no docs that I right-clicked on one of my projects and went to manage user secrets and let my secret show up on screen. And it was my work product, which had my SendGrid key, for example, on there. And then my password was over here. But it was while Thindle was on the call, and I'm like, so check this out. I'm so excited about this. I'm confident in your, and I don't remember what I called it, but I meant to say extension. And then I opened up secrets and it's like, and no, it's not. I need to get it off the screen. So that was a fun time. And it's because I have Visual Studio Professional and Visual Studio Community. Community is obviously the one that I do my stream fun stuff with you guys on, but I had my work product open, which was open in Visual Studio Professional, and that didn't have no docs installed for whatever reason, even though that's one of the first extensions I install. But yes, so speaking of Tyndall, give him a watch as well. .NET developer as well, working on an e-commerce platform. He is modernizing a legacy application, a legacy e-commerce application from web forms all the way through MVC, adding some Blazor, just cool stuff. Oh yeah, and this is also, Nilesh, a version of the streamer community supporting coders. Almost every streamer channel that I'm on shouts out other developer streamers. Game dev, app dev, they aren't very picky. They just want to support software development. And it's just a great community. I love these guys. Okay. I need to get the files open that we're going to be working in. So the structure, that's where I was getting to. The structure that we have are, here are our applications, which just serve as the thing that starts all of our UI and functionality. Then we have all of our UI stuff, which is done in Blazor. We have the app, which is our main router, which shows, which is a way to get from page to page. And in here, the main layout, we're going to have to do the top bar and nav menu. We're going to keep the login form there, but we're going to replace that portion of it since we don't actually have a login functionality yet. And the other one would be the landing page. So index will be our landing page. I got hiccups suddenly. What is your opinion with Python development? I like Python, but IT companies prefer Java over Python. Python has its uses. There are plenty of industries that benefit from having a simple to write, simple to read, expressive language like Python. I find it difficult to work with for the things that I want to do, which is a lot of UI intensive user interactivity stuff. But if I was doing, and this is typical, this is probably just stereotypical of me to say, but stuff like machine learning, data science, then yeah, sure, I would use Python for it because it excels in that. But I wouldn't use it as my main application code language. Java, I can take it or leave it. I learned C# more, so that's why I'm sticking with C#, but I hear that Java is pretty comparable nowadays. And it's just whichever language you happen to be more comfortable with. I just love the .NET ecosystem. DVD says, I have seen a lot of roles recently that include Python, so there is a job market out there for sure. Napalm says, maybe with Kotlin it's comparable. I don't know. I haven't really worked in Java a lot lately. The most I did was we had a local Lineage 2 server that we were running, and that everything for that from the server to the client is done in Java. So I was playing around with that a little bit, but not as I'm developing something in it. I was just fixing code issues. Lack of link is a deal breaker for me, says Napalm. I mean, I definitely take that for granted. I don't have to deal with not having link because all of my code is in C#. All right, so let's start with this layout. Is it really going to change? We have our content wrapper, the top bar. So the content wrapper is essentially body, but it's a way for me to be able to target the wrapper for the entire application from isolated CSS and main layout. If I was just in regular CSS, which I'm using Sass, but what I mean is, you have app.css usually at the top level of your application. It's in your head tag. Then I would be able to target body just fine. But if I want styles that are specific to main layout inside of main layout.razor.css, then I need to be able to target a container and then apply styles to that. But that's what this is. Yeah. Overflow hidden. Right, because the main content has overflow auto. That way the top bar stays in place without using something like position fixed, for example. And that way I can move it around easier in CSS. But here you can see I'm using grid for my page, which I'm going to keep. If we're looking at the redesign, then it still makes sense that we would have a grid that has two parts for the top level of the thing. Is there a way for me to actually visualize that? Give us oh, I can't do anything. So I changed these over to be dev mode because I wanted to have experience in Figma with what dev mode looks like. We had a UI designer role, and we played that role all the way up until we handed it off to the developer on Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, the developer, us, started setting up some work items, planning out how we're going to accomplish this redesign. And we were given the Figma link. We were given access to this Figma design, and the designer marked it as dev mode. So I want to know what it's like working with this Figma design as a dev in dev mode. So let's do that. I'm not going to change it to not dev mode because that's not for me to do. That's for the UI designer to do. At least that's my guess. I'm just throwing things out there. No idea if this is how actual workflows are in Figma. Okay, so we're not going to be able to see that. But if I were to create a grid on this, I would have one row that is auto height for the top bar, one row that is the main content for everything else. Although it could be 3 total rows. But I'm still counting the footer as part of the main content since this footer may not appear on every page. Conversation is still going. So Nilesh says To TBD Gamer, yes, Python has a job market more towards machine learning and data science, but not much in app development and web development, which I am interested in. And TBD Gamer is asking, did you rule out .NET? Because it sounds like you only give the options of Python and Java. But .NET is a great ecosystem, especially if you are familiar with other, I'm going to say object-oriented languages. It's starting to get arguable what object-oriented means, but you know what I mean. You have an object, you can dot off of it, get methods and properties, and you create instances, classes. Oof. Okay, that needs to stay there. So I'm struggling with muting my phone because I know that my personal phone really only gives me junk mail, but there were a few times last week when I needed to be notified of the messages that I got. So I don't know. It's a toss. Did you just call it up? Anyway, moving on. So, what I was trying to get at is we can keep this CSS and main layout. The top bar is going to be grid area TB. The main content is going to be grid area M. So those are fine. But the thing that we don't like is everything else. The theme colors, the custom CSS custom properties themselves, buttons, cards. So how do we approach stripping this out and for the top level main layout, making it look like this? Because the other thing that we're seeing here is that the background is taking up the entire body background. So I guess that is number one, is getting this background image into the body, which we will do using CSS. So if I were to be working on this as a UI developer, I would need to get to the background component, which I'm sure the designer created a component for the background. Here it is. And just seeing if we can take it as is, maybe as an SVG so we can resize it, and playing around with that. So let's just see what happens. If we did background, so I'm going to move background color as our backup in case our image fails. I think the way that we do this so we can use SVG is by doing URL data SVG and then paste in the SVG. Maybe. Let's find out. I don't remember. SVG CSS background. Background image is URL path to SVG, but what about the SVG content directly instead of a file? Yeah, data image slash SVG. Image slash SVG plus XML, comma. And then this needs to be URL encoded. Okay, so we're going to take all of this, find ourselves a nice URL encoder. Copy the contents and paste it there. What do you say? Did you just apply? It did. It did just apply. Look at that. Okay, so instead of making that background, we are going to make it background image so that we can have our primary background color. Changes that. And we've already taken one massive step forward to have the background. And as I mentioned before, this is something that I did want, which is to have this kind of parallaxing effect on the background, but we're going to see that in the hero section and not these middle sections. Although it looks pretty good with the middle section. But that's not what the UI designer gave us. We're going to stick to his design. Oh. Be kind, rewind. These are our base. Yeah, don't go off task already. This is what the whole design was for. These are our base styles for things that get reused quite a bit. Notice I am making my own styles and stuff. I am not importing any external libraries. I would have a underscore external libraries, which I don't mind doing. I mean, we're probably going to need these anyway. And then here we would have stuff like import. What is the syntax for this? I'm looking at a different project that will help me to remember what the syntax is for importing an external library, such as in remix icons or material icons or fonts like Roboto, if we were going to use that. External libraries at import URL. Okay, and so for example, one of them is going to be /https://cdn JS deliver. Well, Dukasoft, if you actually do have questions about Sass or any of the things that we're doing, I can absolutely slow down. We don't have a schedule or a timeline or anything. So feel free to slow me down, ask questions. And if you just don't have the mental bandwidth or just don't actually care, that's totally okay as well. I don't know where that slash came from. That slash came from me wanting to put my isolated CSS in here as well, so that you don't have to remember to put it in www root. This is Blazor UI. Try again. What I meant was in, not server, in client, www root index.html. We can definitely, oh, we do need this one. It's the CSS here, which we can't do. What? How do I, what do I, when do I, where do I? What exactly was I trying to get at? The thing that I'm trying to get at is any additional libraries outside of app.css that we use in the application could be provided here. That way we only ever need app.css up here, unless of course you were going to lazy load your CSS in some way, shape, or form. Okay, moving on. So real quick, the way that Sass works is if you have a pre-compiler installed, and you can do that either through an extension in Visual Studio. My favorite is Web Compiler for 2022 plus. This was initially created by Mads Christensen, and after Visual Studio 2019, he stopped updating it, but Jason Moore was kind enough to update it for 2022. And so it's a really good extension in my opinion. The other one that you could use but doesn't work as well in my opinion is Microsoft.build. Anyway, there's a NuGet package version of it. You do have that. Cool. Did I spell it wrong? I'm uninstalled. Good morning. Build Web Compiler or Build Web Compiler 2022. Yeah, this would be the one. And what this does is it adds a build task that will do the compile Sass step. So once you have either of those, and only on builds, of course. And that's why I don't like using it as much, but this is good for when you're deploying it. You can make sure that your CSS is up to date before you publish. So you would have a build step that is do the actual build that does the web compiler stuff so that you have the updated CSS. The issue that I found with that is if you have isolated CSS, it bundles the isolated CSS first and then does the build web build Sass files. So you end up with an empty CSS isolated CSS file. Bundle CSS. Moving on to the next part of the explanation. Once you have either of those, or both, you can have both. Why not? Why choose? In order to create a Sass file, multiple ways, of course, you can right click, add, new file, new item, whatever. Does it show up as a templated item? I don't think it does. I think you just pick a text file. Nope, it does. Look at that. Neato. So you get it as an item here, name it whatever you want. Let's say we just created this app.css. This one is a little bit maybe stepping one step too far. Tutorial wise, like I would want to show you how to use a single Sass file first. So let's do that. Ignore that. Let's say we just created main layout.razor.scss. And the thing that we wanted to do was, we'll talk about the syntax in a second, was put in some CSS and then have this transpile to an actual CSS file. So let's say we didn't have this, and I have a bunch of stuff in here, so I'm not going to delete all of it. Let's say we didn't have main layout dot. Let's say we didn't have this. Wait, I just Control Z. Whatever, doesn't matter. Point is, we have this main razor.layout.scss file, and we want it to compile for us whenever we make changes to it, or transpile. So you can right click on it. You now have a web compiler. If you install the extension, you now have a web compiler menu item and then you would tell it to compile file. If you don't already have a compiler config.json, it will create one for you and populate this in there, since we're working with main layout.razor.css. The output file is where you want it to output to, obviously. The input file is which file you want to compile. So we want to compile main layout.razor.css, SCSS, and output it to shared main layout.razor.css. So all you have to do is save that file now, and it does it. It does a compile step. You can see down here, compiled successfully. And what it does is it changes your Sass syntax. In this case, we're using syntactically cool style sheet, I think is what SCSS stands for. We're using Sass, SCSS, where we can have nested rules, and those will get turned into CSS that are taking all of those nested rules and combining them the way that CSS knows how to read, or browser knows how to read. But wait, there's more. The other thing that you get for free with the base configuration is a minified CSS file. CoffeeScript, such fun memories. And so here is a minified version of it. So Sass, S-A-S-S, is syntactically awesome style sheets, but I think SCSS stands for something completely different. Sassy CSS, right? So it's pretty much Sass, but yeah, anyway. So it stands for Sassy CSS, is the point. So the way that we got the minified CSS, by the way, if you ever want to override that and tell it I don't want minified CSS, there are multiple ways to do that, of course. One of them is to expand the compiler config.json that was generated for you by web compiler, and then tell it I do not want minified. And you're done. Or give it other rules. So this is where you configure the rules that are global across all CSS transpolations. You could also do it right here. And I forget what the actual thing is. Oh, there it was. Minify. So here's one directly. You can also do options. And you can tell it when you do things, here are all of the other options that you can set. Or are you angry at this? This is supposed to be an object? Oh, right. But anyway, point is you can do it per file or you can do it globally. But the cool thing is, provided you don't have any errors in any of the Sass files that get transpiled in here, every time you save your Sass, your CSS gets regenerated. So if we're looking at the main page, and we do something like, or the main layout, I should say, and we do something like, we actually give the main layout a background color. Then I'm changing it in Sass. It will update my CSS, so we'll see it show up here, and then the background color will change. Just like that. So you only ever have to work in Sass. Okay, what are the benefits of using Sass? The benefits of using Sass are being able to write CSS the way that you write code. You don't always need to do this outer thing and then write that outer thing 800 times in order to write all of the inside rules. So if we were going to write this ourselves as CSS, we would get one rule to rule them all for this. Then we would get one rule that would add those two. And that would look like, oops, this. And then another rule for this one. And now what if I wanted a rule that was when you hover on the top bar, I want it to look like something else? Then you'd have to create another rule just to add :hover here. And we don't like that. Hello? Anyway, you get the point. You're pretty much writing the same thing over and over. All of that is use BEM for all the things. What is BEM? Sass is the only way to write CSS, in my honest opinion. I mean, there are multiple versions of this that support nesting. CSS 3 is going to support nesting. I don't like the syntax as much as I like this, but still. Let's say that I wanted to write this in proper Sass. This rule here is saying, give me an element named main with a class name content. So the main layout element main. So this is a tag name main, class name content, as opposed to an element main with a child item that has a class name content. So that's, oh my gosh, I keep alt tabbing. So that's the difference between having a space and not a space. But how do you do that in CSS, in SCSS? And the answer is, here's your outer rule. You want the element with tag name main, but you also want it with magic. You also want it to have a class name of content. So the ampersand is used to say whatever the outer selector is also must have content. Also must be hovered. So this is main.content:hover, no spaces. If I did it like this, it would turn into main space class name content :hover. And :1. I am not a pseudo selector. You stop that. Okay, get BEM. BEM is methodology that helps you create reusable components and code sharing and front-end development. I don't have time for all these rules. It's hard enough getting a button on a screen. Now I have to learn wizardry and a whole set of rules as to how I should be writing things. However, don't you already have to do that with CSS if you don't know CSS that well yet? So I would argue that this is more intuitive for a developer who's used to writing code, HTML even, to learn how to write CSS. This is a lot more descriptive. I just guess until it looks right. Which you can do, again, you can do here. It's just that you'll be able to match up your CSS with your actual structure a lot easier this way. So when I'm looking at this, if I'm looking at main layout.razor, or I guess we want it side by side, there isn't any space for this. You can see that I have this Dukasoft content wrapper. Nested inside of Dukasoft content wrapper, I have a top bar that is a component, which is why we have : deep. and then we have an element called main, and then and with that you have .content. It's game changing. Let me tell you, my CSS skills went from 0 to hero. I am serious. This is Napalm saying this. I am serious though. It lines up with your elements. It's way more intuitive. And it's literally 3 rules, organize in blocks, elements with potential modifiers. Nothing crazy. Yeah. And again, that would be something I am interested in doing. But right now I do know SCSS, and I am using Blazor to organize things in blocks, essentially. And I'm not really sharing the UI with anyone. But this may be a lot more interesting for us to use in the Blazor component library. So I will keep that in mind. That goes in my UI design folder. Do I have any subfolders in there? So we'll keep that in mind. For this app, I honestly don't think that it would be as useful, unless you are saying that it would be much better for us to use that. Like, I don't even know, is BEM a software solution, essentially? Is it like a package where I had to download Web Compiler in order to be able to use SCSS? Okay, so it's just a methodology. Yeah, there's still a lot of naming conventions that I do differently, though. So that would be hard to break myself of that habit because I've been doing the other CSS styles for so long. Snake casing, for example. So all of my classes use kebab case. All of my IDs use camel case. I really don't know what this is. Are these custom elements? So nothing to install. Once you get it, it's also nice for designers to know BEM, or if designers know BEM. Okay, so yes, I will look into it then, not on stream unless you think it really is something that would benefit us, because that is what we're doing at this point in time, which is being UI designer, UI developer. Yeah. So we know that the ampersand is, like I was describing here, in place of the ampersand, we would write main when it gets flattened out. It's kind of been me already. Yeah, it's just the rest of the naming conventions that I would have to learn. So like I said, my class names are kebab. If we had any CSS out here with IDs, they would be camel cased. But I don't get what the underscore. And I don't like saying underscore, but that's just a personal thing. I would get used to it if it really is a easier way to write Sass. And then the double dash is and I don't know if it's like this in BEM, but double dash is a CSS custom property. So if I see this as anything other than a CSS custom property, I have no idea. Or I would get confused initially until I got used to it. Yeah. So it's almost sounding like this is Hungarian case, where you're saying, here's the usage. You can identify it by the characters that we put before. as well as the syntax. I'm using Tailwind and PrimeNG, so my own CSS so far totals 25 lines. Yeah, and again, for people that are okay with the out-of-the-box solutions that they get from CSS libraries, do it. Yeah, and I will look at it, see if it's right for me to want to use. But if you don't think it will be as beneficial doing that and setting it up and learning it on stream for viewers, then we'll skip it and just go with what I know. Whatever works for me. The more you know, that's all. That is arguable. The more you know, the harder it is to choose which methodology to use. If you only know one way to do things, then many issues abound, but also you're able to just do. Oy vey. I am not being chippy. I apologize if it's coming across as chippy. I really am wanting to do things that would be beneficial to viewers. And me, of course. Right now I have so much code. Yeah, that's the other consideration, and I'm sure that that's a consideration that TBD makes too. When he says the things that he says sometimes, which is I have so much code that I'm currently managing that is using this. And if I start using new syntax or anything in one code base, then I need to start using it in all of the other code bases, and having a mix of both might be the tech debt up front and then cleaning it up as I go. But this is good methodology too. So I wouldn't want to change any existing stuff. I would only want to use it for new stuff, I guess. I don't know. But yes, I do apologize if I sounded chippy, whatever chippy means. I did not mean for it to be offensive. Or me taking offense. Defensive? Defensive. I want it to be malleable. Moving on then. Main layout. We have top bar, main. Oh, cool. Good to know. We have the top bar and then main. And that matches the design just fine, so we don't need to change the structure for that. Why do I have a... Oh, right, because that was an example. I was like, what is this? Is that a placeholder for some kind of full screen background or something? No, that was just me being weird. Showing examples with the code, making changes to it when I don't need to be making changes to it. The other thing that we'll want to set up as part of our layout are our making sure our font size actually match what the designer gave us as far as headers, titles, captions, subtitles, and whatever the other one is. There's like 5 classes of text sizes. Body, of course, body. Base font size is number 1. What else do we need to do? Nothing for the main layout for our Dukasoft content wrapper. But index is going to change quite a bit, where our hero section. So I think the way that we have structured all of our pages is every single one of them is going to be contained inside of an article. Best wrapper ever. Do you have any releases? Any LPs? Any EPs? Thank you for the courtesy laugh. It really was. We should have went to the top bar first. Top bar is going to look very different. It's not going to be the calculator. Calculator is going to be its own thing. How do I want to do calculator? I just want to move it away. That's the main thing. I want the calculator to go somewhere else, so I'm going to create a component for the calculator button. Problem is, I'm going to want the calculator button to not only be the button, but the calculator component itself too. Calculator display. I don't know why I'm doing it that way. Why am I doing it that way? Calculator display, which is going to be the U. I'm going to close the file and reopen it because sometimes that gets our syntax highlighting back. Here we go. You're going to have a code behind calculator display. Actually, let's do the code behind file easier. YouTube. Which the easiest way to get it is to create a code block, in my opinion. Not necessarily true. Make the bool for show calc, so we get rid of those errors, and then we just move it to a code behind file. So this is one of those instances where if this doesn't have any additional logic, I think you did, but tell us more. TBD asks, did I mention on Friday that I have a strange interview coming up? This is how I'm going to do it here. Since there's only one field that I'm tracking, which is show or hide the calculator, and that controls whether the pop-up shows up or not, I'm not going to create a code behind file because this is all UI specific. And there's no additional logic, no functionality, no weird stuff. We're just setting show to true here and then binding it on the calculator so that when we close the calculator, we set show to false. I'm interviewing in the company I work for a role that I was actually hired for originally. However, they're looking to switch to .NET. Ooh. That is a very interesting situation to be in. Then why do you have to interview again? As president, not sure. That makes sense to me. So it's a different position. It's a different role. Or probably same role. It's a different position. And it's an FTE most likely. It's a full-time equivalent position. That is and he's going to vacate his current position to encumber an FTE. He was originally hired for it. Which means that he has moved jobs since then within the company. Which he explains, because I was moved into a different role after I started, and I'm interviewing with our sister company. Aha, aha. Bigsoft says, wish my work would switch to .NET. Your work can switch to whatever you want. Okay, I don't like that whatever container we put this calculator display in is going to be the container. Wait, All of my .razor files go up there. Excuse me. Again, if you have any comments on my work processes, if you're like, what, why are you, what are you doing? Why? Just no. Then feel free to speak up. Opinions are welcome. I will shoot them down as fast as you bring them up. What? I mean, I will reframe my statements so that they match your opinions while making you agree with whatever it is that I say. TBD Gamer is responding to Dukasoft saying our parent and sister companies all use .NET. We're the odd one out on PHP. So the guy asking me if I was interested last week said, if you have a bit of experience in .NET, that would be a bonus. TBD's like, a little. I mean, I could try to get by. I'll do my best to scrape by. Just a bit. Well then. A few hours. I think I can knock together Hello World if you give me some time. Oh man. Where are we? We're in index.razor. No, we're not. We're messing with the calculator display. Was there anything in top bar that we had CSS wise for the calculator display? No, there isn't. So we're fine. We're just going to delete the calculator button and the display. What I really want to do is not use this calculator display button because, again, whatever container we put the calculator display in is going to be the container that that the actual calculator is in. And I don't want that. The thing that I would prefer is to have the calculator itself be in the layout, just like these other dialogues. And then have a state property that we could watch to see if we should be showing the calculator or not. So we'll most likely change that, but right now that's not even in the design. So who cares? Right? Right? Oh, nice. So Dukasoft is relaying a message from Irish John's Discord. His Discord, right? It's an easy button to press. Hello, all the same. Where Irish John Games is saying, howdy folks, I'm gonna try to do a stream later, still dosed with COVID, so my dosed with COVID, because like, you know, you take COVID shot. Anyway, so might be a short one, starting at the usual time. Not sure what the schedule will be this week. Let's just play it by ear. You shouldn't be streaming. You should be resting. But it's all up to you. You do you. But I know he doesn't want to let down his community. He has a lot of people that watch him and love watching him. He's also doing really well as far as getting 3 months of whatever status he needs so that he can increase his revenue shares, and probably doesn't want to lose that progress either. Hello, Deflux. Happy Monday to you. As I heard TBD say to you, happy first day on your new job. It's going well. Slacking off already. Coming to my stream is not slacking off. This is a valuable experience of your time. See me trying? I tried really hard. Yeah, TBD is off this week. It's like I can't say that about you, can I? But every other week. Where are we? We are trying to we have our layout. We're happy with the CSS for the layout. and we have our top bar. We need to fill in the content for the top bar. So let's continue using the design to fill in these elements for le top bar. So what we could do is go to the top bar component so that we know what the different top bar styles are going to be for our different sizes and possibilities. It's crazy that this UI designer created all of these different versions of it, and he's only using like 2. Like, what kind of crazy person just makes, oh geez, it's on a different page. What kind of crazy person takes Easy Cheese on a plane? Creates all of these different versions of the top bar just to use 3 of them. I'm gonna have to talk with the designer. I mean, I don't want to, you know, like berate him or anything, but dude has some OCD issues. For those of you that are new on the stream, I'm talking about myself. Myself is the one that did those. Please don't think that I'm talking about someone else. So let's just sketch this out, and then we'll consider what actual components we want to make. I mean, obviously we want the page title with the icon, and then maybe the links on the right. But we also want the hamburger version of it and the one without a title. So that's kind of why I want to put it all in one file for now, because we aren't necessarily, right. That's another thing that I'm trying to stop myself from doing. There are times when it is appropriate to just put HTML in a component, as opposed to trying to break that component down into smaller components. Like here, I could have one component that is the app title, which app title is a reserved component, but whatever. So like app title, for example, and that will be our icon plus application title. Another one that would be our app links. We could do that. However, we don't need that because this is the only usage of that content. I would encourage, which this could be inappropriate, this could be wrong, do your research, figure out if this is the right way to do things. I would say that if you aren't reusing the content, don't make it into a component. Which is odd, because here I'm breaking my rule in main layout already. I am not reusing the top bar component in any other subcomponent. So that means that it should just be of the main layout. I wonder if an exception to the rule could be if the component itself has changing content or isolated styles that apply only to it. I don't know. I don't know how I can make that actually work as a rule for myself. I wanted to create a standard so that I'm not just willy-nilly saying this one here should just have the content inside of it and not split up into these 2 subcomponents. But it just feels like it doesn't need to be in this case. Yes, thank you, Dukasoft. You're the best. I can't hear Big Gamey anymore. Actually, why can't I hear him? Why is he actually muted? He wasn't supposed to be muted. He was just supposed to be at 1%. I don't know. Do any of you have opinions on that? Like, if you were to use a componentized system, doesn't matter if it's Blazor, React, or Angular, or whatever, would you create a separate component in this specific scenario where we have a header, a top bar, that has a left section that has the application's title with an icon, where sometimes it will be displayed with the icon, sometimes it'll be displayed without the title. Peter says no. And then on the right side, we have the navigation links. Or actions, I guess. This is the top bar, actions. Because right now, what this would look like is image source. And we're just going to grab this one, even though it's still just a placeholder, which I guess means that we're going to do it like this instead. Just do it in line. And then that means that we'll also need to do, actually, you know what? App brand is what we'll call this. And then we'll have the SVG and the title, which is going to be a H1 class app title. And we'll call this financial, what did you put on here? The actual thing? Management tracker. And then we'll turn this into a link, of course. And then on the other side, we'll have div class links, because lazy. Which will have the UL, li, about contact and login. And then a button. That's our call to action. Which is get started. Okay, I'll read chat. Peter says, no, but I'm a simple man. Maybe if you can think of 3+ total use cases, then go ahead, or to get the practice on making components. That's a good reason. Deflex is saying, depending if I thought I might change the content of the app bar, but I'd probably be lazy and make just one component. Dukesoft says, I did in my app. Rob Langdev is here to lurk. Thank you so much for the lurk. I saw you over on Big Gamey stream too. Hope you're having a great day. So essentially, component app brand is what I'll call it. And let's just do it. Let's just create an app brand component. Will look like this. Aren't you guys in the same folder? I shouldn't have to have a using. Dagnabbit. Whatever. You'll find it eventually. We'll blame it on .NET Watch. And then we'll call this, oh man, what do we call this? App bar links? Why not? Naming things is hard, so what I've decided to do lately is just go with whatever comes out of my mouth. Rename it if I need to. So then this is what my top bar would become, but it feels kind of silly to have a top bar component just to have two more components inside of it that aren't really high functional, high UI components. They're just content that gets displayed. It might be different if maybe these links would change based off of the user state. It also feels like it would be easier to maintain the app brand. Like if we wanted to, we could give the app brand a parameter. And for now, I'm going to make it a public public enum. What did the designer call it? The designer called it something smart. Except you can't see what the name of the property is. Size. Just called it size. App brand size. And we could have small, medium, and large. Or no, we're going to use their choices. Dang it. Still trying to stick to the design. Which were full. Can you take me to the... Interesting. So these are all size full. I don't like what the designer did with that. They kind of just left it. Everything is a size full for the top bar. And then you control whether the title is showing or not. Like, it doesn't make sense. Designer cutting corners. No, I just don't think they were thinking ahead. I mean, leave it to me to assume what the designer was thinking. And what they did and didn't consider. But I think they originally created this property thinking that they would have a full version, a compact version, and that would be the thing that determines whether the title is showing, the icon is showing, or the hamburger is showing. But what ended up happening is they didn't even use that property at all. And split it up into 4 properties instead. Show title, show icon, hamburger, and show call to action. Which I don't think we would want... hamburger. I don't think we would want to do in our component, because that would also give us the ability to have everything set to false. Whereas in Figma, when you set up certain parameters, certain properties, then when you use it, which we can't do because we're developers, when you use that component, when you create an instance of it, you're only able to select combinations that actually exist, that they created designs for. So since there are very specific ones used, which we talked about earlier, actually, then we will only create the number of different styles, and that's what we'll call it instead of size. Come on. I can't Alt-Tab anymore suddenly. I can't click on anything anymore. Bye, WDM. Bye, Explorer. So you guys didn't see it, but all right, Napalm, thank you so much for being here. Have a great week. Yeah, hopefully I didn't scare you off. But anyway, my start menu and Explorer just crashed and restarted for whatever reason. I think I was pushing Alt Tab too fast. But anyway, we have version 1, version 2, which is also this one, but smaller text. But that's going to be based off of breakpoints, not a parameter. Same thing here. It's only ever going to be one version of the component, so we aren't actually going to set the size using a parameter on a component. So it doesn't make sense. It's all going to be CSS. Because what I was going to do... oh, geez. This one. What I was going to do is give us a parameter to say whether or not we're going to show the icon, the title, or a hamburger menu, or what. But that's usually done with CSS. So we aren't going to create a parameter for that. And that also does kind of make sense for creating components, because now each of these components could have their own appbrand.razor.sass, for example. And this thing, which I will put down here, will target appbrand. And then we will also have a separate media query for, how do you write these? Min width colon, no, max width. Or, yeah, it depends. It depends. What order do you guys like to do your UI designs? Because I know every single one of you is a UI developer designer. Do you prefer, I know what the suggestion is from the interwebs when I read it a million years ago, but do you prefer to make your UI mobile first and then write media queries for larger screens, or do you prefer to make it normal screen first and then write your media queries for smaller screens? So essentially what we would do here is we would write the CSS as it would look on a mobile device. Then we would add media queries for how to change it to look on bigger screens. Versus, here's our CSS for pretty much every case, aside from some font sizing differences compared to how it would look on a mobile device. And our mobile device would actually be whatever they told us. 360. Which we might do. What is our whitest mobile? It's like there's some crazy CSS breakpoint rules for doing mobile. Like, you're supposed to identify if it's what type of device it is, and then you can say what breakpoint it actually gets. Mobile breakpoint. Yeah, so I'm going to go up to 480 and say that that's going to be good enough, because that would even work if you're on a desktop and you happen to squish the screen down to something like this. I'm okay with that. And actually, what size was that? Thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate it. Welcome in. If you are new here, this is a software development stream. Over the past few months, maybe couple months, we've been working on redesigning the UI for our stream application that we worked on for the 7 to 30 months before that. You're definitely welcome to check out the application on GitHub. It is open source. Feel free to contribute if you want anything you feel like doing with it. I will review PRs and stuff if you are interested in doing that. So what we're doing now is we're taking the application as it is. We role played as a UI designer, redesigned the landing page, and now we're handing this off to ourselves as the UI developer, and we are implementing this redesign in the app. So part of that is determining some breakpoints, and I'm okay with this. And the way that I'm going to do the rest of them is, and maybe that's why you do it that way. Interesting. So I think I just ran into why it's better to maybe do breakpoint. Start at the smallest possible width for your regular app. Have your first breakpoint be min width 481, because then the next one that would take over would be 761. But all of these rules would still apply, so we really would have to put a range still. So it doesn't matter which side we start on. So how do we do a combination then? We do a min width. I think we can use the word and, maybe not. Maybe we can't. CSS, media query, min and max. Oh, you just put it outside of the parentheses. 760. There's a 768. It's something. 69, dude. And I'm using this one as my guide, but I really should be using our designers. So we do have 768 as our next breakpoint. So between, I think I said this is I think the designer told us that this is the min width here. So between 768 and, nope, that doesn't make sense, and 1920. So this is between, this one is the one that is max width 1920, min width 769. Okay. I would imagine the designer knew what they were doing and figured out breakpoints already. Yes, they did. And it kind of seems like they use the same resource I am. Not really. Who is this designer anyway? Watch the previous videos and find out. That is a really big breakpoint though. We might have to add another one. Yeah, watch their YouTube channel. You can see the previous videos there. So yeah, this would be what I would consider one of the drawbacks of using isolated CSS. So I have all of my breakpoints, and I'll show you a technique that you might be able to use so that it's not as much repetitive code, but instead of having all of my breakpoint rules and overwriting CSS in one file, like let's say that I had all of my main styles here, and then I had all of my media queries here so that I know how to adjust the layout of the application based on those breakpoints. I would have those in one file at the top that has access to all of the elements. But here I'm using isolated CSS, so I'm going to need to do it inside of my app brand component. I'm going to need to put it inside of my app title, app links component, my top bar component, potentially. Like it probably would be better for me to have my basic CSS as the isolated CSS for the component, and then my media query would be in top bar. There's already one. But then, in order for me to target the child components, each of these would need : D. Because of the way isolated CSS works, and if you want a description on that, then please let me know and I'll go into more information about that. More detail about that is what I said. And then we would do min width 1921. Oh. Yeah, so anything bigger than 1921 would be covered by my base styles. Right? Right. So this still feels wrong-ish to me. Doesn't it? There's something odd about having the breakpoints like this. But anyway, I said that I was going to show, because we're using Sass, it's full of weeb meth. What is weeb meth? I agree. It just feels like it just feels wrong. So because we have to use media queries and the same breakpoints in multiple places, one thing that you might be tempted to do is turn to CSS custom properties for that. So if you don't know what a CSS custom property is, that is when you put a dash dash, some property name that you make up on the fly, give it a value of whatever kind of value you want. It could be a set of properties, like let's say it's the top, right, bottom, left. that you want to use in both padding and margin for some reason. So whatever value you put as the value of that property is going to replace whatever's in here. You can make it just RGB values, for example. And then you could do something like background color RGBA bar on fly, comma, opacity. And then this would compile fine, whatever. This would be, it would read this correctly as a valid property value. As opposed to if you did, well, I think this also works where you can use a hex value as the first parameter in RGBA and then give it an alpha. Anyway, point is, you would be tempted to do that. So you define your custom property in most likely root, which is, I put it in underscore root.sass. Hello? Control. I've forgotten my keyboard shortcuts. Temporarily. So like all of these, I have custom CSS properties. So what if we made a breakpoints? I am root of breakpoint small ready pix breakpoint, I don't know, medium min. No, that's max. Nice try. Anyway, you get the point. We're creating custom CSS properties for the breakpoints. Disfortunately, you can't use custom CSS properties. And yes, I did say that correctly. Don't question me. For breakpoint values. While it compiles fine, it will not read this correctly and it will not do the breakpoints correctly. However, since we are using Sass, what we could use are Sass variables. And we would put those Sass variables somewhere. Say in a Sass file called breakpoint variables. And we would have a Sass property called breakpoint small. And that would be those values that we had. Because these are pretty much like consts. Once they're set, you can't change their values at runtime. So here we would use our syntax for using a Sass variable, which is something like this. I think. I want to answer this question real quick. Oh, right. And then we have to actually import that file. Oh, I guess you don't need the underscore either. Okay, I wanted to read the chat. Danny Dev is here. I'm a game dev looking to start getting more into web dev. What would you suggest? So being a .NET channel, I suggest learning Blazor, but are you wanting to learn just so that you can build your own website? Are you wanting to learn because you want to get a job in web dev? I really love and enjoy working in Blazor. It has its quirks. It's not for everyone. It's not for every possible scenario, although I use it for everything. So the things that I would factor in are, if you're looking to get a job in web dev and you kind of know what industry or what companies are hiring currently in your area, find out what technologies they use. Do they use a JavaScript framework? Do they use F# for whatever reason? Do they use Python? We were talking about that earlier. Do they use Rust? Do they use PHP? Java? So find out what technology the companies around you are hiring for, if that's your goal. If it's for you to create your own website, for you to just learn how to do web development, I would recommend just starting with plain old HTML and CSS. Don't even worry about frameworks. Don't worry about web applications. Free Code Camp has a bunch of guided courses on just learning HTML and CSS, and vanilla JavaScript would come in handy regardless of if you're going to use Blazor, which you don't have to write JavaScript for, but it's still handy to know JavaScript because there will be times you need to fall back onto JavaScript. Yeah. I tried PHP, but it's not for me. Not for me either. I don't blame you. By the way, Free Code Camp also has, if you are interested in using Blazor, for example, and you have not done C# before, although what kind of game dev do you do? Because you might have C# skills already. But if you don't know C#, they have a certification. I think it's called a certification. A C# programming fundamentals, foundational C# with Microsoft, to teach you the basics of C#, but sounds like you have C# skills. That's why another reason that .NET would probably benefit you. You already have C# skills. You know C#. Is it through Unity or Godot or some other game engine that I don't know of that uses C#? Tukasoft says same. So same. Because this code here that we're writing is C#. It might look like components that you might write in other frameworks without all of the extra curly braces. But it is very similar to if you were just learning how to write any kind of markup language. You have an element name, a tag name. That element might have some attributes, and we call them properties because all of these components here, all of these elements are C# classes. And these are properties on those C# classes. But it follows the same pattern as writing HTML. So this is plain old HTML inside of the same type of file, but I can also write C#. So if some variable, then display this information. I started just as a C# developer, then moved on to Unity, and now looking to get into web dev for professional reasons. Yeah, so the current ecosystems, if you don't like this kind of mix of C# and HTML in the same file, you might also look at static pages. I don't know what in .NET doesn't use Razor syntax anymore. You could still write it as static HTML and JavaScript to control that HTML. You don't have to use C# inside of this anywhere at all. You could just make every single one of these .razors HTML only. And then when you use them, you can still use the component part of it, where you're creating custom web elements on the fly, where they only have HTML inside of them. And then you're using them inside of other components. Gosh, but what about these? Yeah, and then you can write a JavaScript file in the back that, or in the index.html. So that index.html references that JavaScript file, and that runs all of your UI for you, does AJAX if you wanted it to, or XHR requests, all of it. But I still recommend MVC, Blazor, Razor Pages if you're going to do web application development, because I love it. But just know there are JavaScript frameworks that are structured similarly, based around components. You can write JavaScript in the front end and the back end, especially if you are going to work for a company that will be using JavaScript frameworks. It would be a good idea to learn at least vanilla JavaScript. Document.querySelector. Or all that stuff. Okay, that's fun. Good question. We're going to use these. I think I wrote it correctly. Did I write it correctly? Yeah, BP small. So now we don't have to remember what our breakpoints are. We could always update them the next time that we run. The server part of Blazor is quite easy to get into. Yeah. As far as tutorial type stuff, that is one of the complaints that I hear a lot about Blazor in general, is the getting started stuff has a lot of practices that aren't really the industry standard. So when you create a new Blazor application, you will be faced with this dialogue. So you would choose Blazor Web App because you're creating a new application for yourself, a new web application. You most likely want to use the latest .NET. So .NET 8 currently will be .NET 9 in November. But when you create a new Blazor Web App, first you're just telling it, where do I want all of my project files? So let's just say that we want it in local. But this screen here, oh, I just want to add it. Whatever, fine. Create a new solution then. Jeez, I don't care. This screen here is the one that's like not, I mean, there are plenty of people that talk about it, but it takes a bit to understand it. What I would recommend doing is, if you aren't planning on having anything hosted in the back end, like a database or files that you need to access that are stored on a server, or Signal R so that other people using the same application can communicate with each other, and it's just going to be something that you go to and you do stuff in on your client, in your browser, stick with WebAssembly. Server is the easiest, in my opinion, where everything is living on the server. You have access to the database and all that stuff, but all the tutorials for using server mode kind of teach you to put like database accessors inside of your UI. And it's like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. Or the ones that have to do with having an API server will have you put all of your HTTP clients, the ways that you call your server and ask it to do things, in your UI as well. That's also something I would recommend not doing, or hazard against is probably a better way of saying that. Instead, you would want some class that will do that for you, like an intermediary class that will handle all of your requests to the server that say, give me this information, and that gives back to the UI the data that will populate the UI, and that's the only thing the UI cares about. That way you're separating these layers. But the person that I would learn from is this guy named Patrick God. I absolutely love his tutorials and stuff. I love his structure and stuff, and he does go over a really good he has a really good video about describing all of those render modes. In .NET 8. Well, what do you know? And he even goes into using SQL Server and Entity Framework and all of those good cool things. But I really trust him a lot. Okay, but great question. Thank you so much for being here. I will be streaming more actual Blazor development. Right now we're doing a lot of UI stuff, but we'll be getting into some more backend stuff when we start adding features to this. But we did get started finally, and we have an approach which we're going to use media queries starting from no media query is full-size application view. Media query breakpoint 1 is 1920 and smaller. Media query 2 is 768 and smaller. Media query 3 is 480 and smaller. Awesome. And yeah, lurks are absolutely welcome. You don't have to ever say anything if you don't feel like it. And you are always welcome to bring up whatever conversation you want. We don't have a timeline that we need to stick to. But yeah, I think you get the hint, the picture of what we're going to do with our breakpoints and how we're going to make it so that if we ever do need to change the actual breakpoints, we only have to do it in one place and it'll affect the entire application. Um, 768.1 and 1920. But I'm trying to wrap up, but I wanted to get this part done. If we ever do need to put this somewhere else, then we have the breakpoint rules. It really just feels like there should be a better way to do our breakpoints instead of needing to rewrite them over and over in all of the places that are responsive. So like there is a way to do it where our root CSS will change. I have some ideas that I hope I don't forget. So just as a quick thought, our media queries could potentially only exist in our global styles. So global styles is where I take my underscore roots. Where did I put underscore root? We had it open. Oh, right here. So underscore root is a place that I define all of my custom CSS properties. And when I use these colors and variables and stuff, so for example, a button has a color by default of whatever we have our primary foreground color to be, and that's defined here. We could also put the CSS custom properties for the styling of an entire section, like the top bar, whether we are showing or hiding the hamburger button, showing or hiding the icon, showing or hiding the app title, the links on the right side, and the call to action button. And then we only use the CSS custom properties when we are saying, for example, an app brand, the SVG, display, show app brand icon, for example. And that value will be none, block, inline block, however we are going to set it up. Yeah. And then we wouldn't even need a media query for that, because that'll just be the CSS custom property. Okay, I'm going to clean up some stuff real quick. But I do need to start ending because I need to get back to my day job. The correct way to do CSS breakpoints. Thank you. That is going to be extremely helpful. I'll try to read this before the next stream. But that is going to be really, really helpful. Yes, thank you so much, TBD. One more time, TBD is a streamer as well. If you have the time, he streams every USA morning time, 7 a.m. Eastern, UTC -4. Check him out. Really cool guy. Love hanging out on the streams. We're going to go to this screen for now. I am done for the day. I'm going to get back to work, doing my day job. I will be streaming more often eventually, and I will be streaming my day job eventually. We know, Peter. So you will see professional Blazor development as a career on stream as **N. No guarantees on when. It'll most likely be after we are done with the redesign stuff, but it'll be there. So you say. Since we didn't get to do this last time because he went away, or he wasn't actually streaming on Friday, we're going to raid Big Gamey today. So once again, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate your energy, your vibe, your who you are, and everything about you. I'll see you whenever you come back by. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, which is UTC -6 currently. And I post all of my VODs to YouTube at some point in time in the future, usually before the next stream. You can also feel free to join our Discord if you want. If you're already a part of like 8,000 Discord servers, you don't have to worry about it. It's a pretty quiet server, but we do have a great community, amazing people that are willing to answer questions. There are people there that ask questions, so if you're knowledgeable enough to help them, then you are welcome to do that too. I'm turning Big Gamey up a little bit more so I make sure he's not ending his stream anytime soon. He's been going for about 3 hours. Okay. Yep, that's it. Okay, ciao for now. Enjoy. See you next time. Whenever you feel like being here. Oh, I'm out of practice with this waving stuff. Ciao.